Gothamites, if you're new here, hi! I'm London, aka History of the Batman. Typically, Batman doesn't do drugs or drink alcohol because he doesn't want to corrupt himself to not be on his game just in case some craziness breaks out, which seems like it happens every day. But there have been times in Batman's comic book history that he has, well, used and abused drugs. While there are DC Comics characters that are actually addicted to certain drugs, from Mirror Master's addiction to cocaine, and at one point Roy Harper's addiction to heroin, Batman's usage of drugs are not long-term in most cases. Nevertheless, Bruce Wayne is human and has succumbed to addiction and has gone through the road of rehabilitation, just as any of us could or would have to. For this video, we will highlight 5 times that Batman has been on drugs, how he evidently got off of the drugs, and how these drugs affected him as being Batman, both physically and mentally. Disclaimer, bells, whistles. First of all, as Mr. Mackey would tell you, drugs are bad, okay? I can't do that voice. And in no way am I telling you that, oh, Bats is a junkie? Well, let me go find some heroin in a dark alley. This video is just talking about one of my favorite topics. And no, not the topics of drugs, but Bruce Wayne being human and his humanity. You know I have a soft spot for that for our Dark Knight. Now, I'm not your mom, and this isn't an after-school special, but you guys just don't do crack. Don't do that. I don't know how else to say it. Just don't do crack. Before we get into some very interesting stories, why don't you subscribe to this channel and become a part of this wonderful Gothamite community? And if you subscribe and comment below, I am Batman with an exclamation point, you are automatically entered for a chance to win a Mondo exclusive Batman the Animated Series 1/6 scale figure. All of that info about the giveaway is linked in the description below if you want all of the details and who is eligible and how long the contest lasts and when I'll announce the winner and all that good stuff. So yeah, it would be a really good idea if you subscribed. Alright, on to our first story. And let's start off with some good old-fashioned crazy Grant Morrison because this video is already going to be bonkers, so whatever. Here we go. In 2008, Morrison and Tony S. Daniel created the arc Batman R.I.P, which precedes the arc Final Crisis, where Bruce Wayne actually does die. But if you think about it, in this story, Bruce Wayne does kind of die, in a sense. So, actually never thought about it that way. I'm a bad fan. In this story, the villain Dr. Hurt and the Black Glove organization not only wants to take down Batman and the Batman family, but also wants to take total control of Gotham City, which is a very common theme for any villain, if you think about it. But while Batman is fighting a member of the Black Glove, they give him a dose of Librium, which in its simplest terms is a huge sedative. After this encounter, while he's in the Batcave, Bruce feels like he's just not himself. And his girlfriend at the time, Jezebel Jet, they're really close. I mean, she's in the Batcave. She tells him he is definitely off his game. And because, spoiler, she isn't the best person, she says the phrase "Zur-en-Aw," which makes Bruce Wayne's mind completely shut down and put him in a trance of sorts. And then suddenly, Dr. Hurt and his crew bust into the Batcave, beat up Alfred, and then shoot up Bruce with not only crystal meth, but heroin, and then throw him out into an alley. And although Bruce tries to get his ish together with the help of a friend who he finds out was never really there, Bruce realizes that he is definitely not Bruce anymore, which leads to a total mental breakdown. He makes this colorful costume and then calls himself the Batman of Zur-en-Aw, which, to put the icing on this drug-filled cake, the magical imp Batmite comes out and is concerned. Basically, Batmite, who plays the role of Morgan Freeman in these comics, explains that Dr. Hurt made the phrase Zur-En-Aw as a trigger to make Bruce not himself. But Bruce Wayne, being Batman preparing for this, decided if he ever succumbed to this triggering phrase, would literally have a backup persona, which he called the Batman of Zur-En-Aw, which has nothing to do with Bruce Wayne and is literally just the identity of Batman. And the Batman of Zur-En-Aw is literally just hopped up on drugs and is being crazy and going around Gotham City. So Zur-En-Aw Batman ends up in Arkham Asylum, which is fitting because he's just not here right now. Fights the Joker briefly and then is stuck in a straitjacket. Like I said, fitting. He remembers his training of how he got to the point of Zur-En-Aw Batman, which helps him snap out of this hypnosis. And since he hasn't been given a fresh dose of crystal meth and heroin, is able to get his mind back to being Bruce Wayne, back to regular Batman, and able to defeat Dr. Hurt and the Black Glove organization. The arc ends with Bruce remembering his father, Thomas Wayne, talking to him after they go to see the Mark of Zorro, which that night, of course, is the night that both Thomas and Martha are gunned down in Crime Alley. And after seeing Zorro, Thomas says that they would probably throw someone like Zorro in Arkham. I love that line at the end of this arc because I actually did a full podcast interview with Grant Morrison, which I will link in the description below if you're interested to hear that conversation, because literally it is one of the best conversations I've had in my entire life. And half of it I don't even understand. But Grant Morrison said that he wanted to link his parents and this persona of Zur-En-Aw, which was originally a Silver Age alien character that he revamped for the modern age, into this drug-filled, crazy bat persona. Even on my Zur-En-Aw Funko, he signed it and wrote the Zorro of Arkham, which is one of my most treasured items I think in my entire collection of Batman memorabilia and everything. Okay, so we have one story down and Bruce has already done meth and heroin. So we're off to a great start. Our next story comes in the 6-issue limited series by Kevin Smith and Walt Flanagan called Batman the Widening Gyre. This story is more well known for the return of Silver St. Cloud, who was one of Bruce Wayne's biggest love interests. However, in issue 1 of this 6-issue series, Poison Ivy has taken over Arkham Asylum and literally has made it her own personal jungle. And while Batman cuts through vines and sees villains like Joker just having a good old time, he finds Poison Ivy, who, after having a very sensual conversation with Batman and saying how she probably thinks that he's good with his tongue. I'm not trying to be crass or anything, literally, like, that's what she says. She permeates these pheromones, which she usually does use to seduce men and other people to doing whatever she wants, but within these pheromones is a very high concentration of THC, which makes Batman literally high on marijuana. So high that to a point where the demon Etrigan, who is after Poison Ivy, comes to Arkham and literally beats the crap out of Batman because he's out of it. He's high. All he's looking for are chips. He is not there. He is not ready to fight. And Batman is actually saved by this new masked figure who is considered a good guy and does good things with him throughout this arc. And that's how that particular issue ends. And we are just to assume that the high literally faded away. No pun intended. But this does prove that Bruce being high on chronic does not make for a functioning hero. Alright, so we have meth, heroin, and weed. Already a solid list. Now, this next story is actually an understandable use of a drug. Maybe? I don't want to say, oh yeah, this was great, but you'll see what I mean. During the New 52 era, there was the publication that was called Earth 2, which talked about the heroes and characters of the parallel universe that is parallel to Prime Earth, or the regular continuity. In this Earth 2 world, Batman wasn't Bruce Wayne, but he was Thomas Wayne, which was originally established in Jeff Johns' 2011 arc Flashpoint. And if you are interested in the story Flashpoint, I will link my 1-minute Bat history in the description below if you want to learn more about how Thomas Wayne became Batman. But in this universe, in particular fighting off things like parademons from Apocalypse, Thomas's Batman takes consistently a drug called Miraclo that gives you for about an hour's time superhuman strength and invulnerability. So it is a steroid of sorts, but considering Thomas is an older Batman and he is trying to fight these intergalactic beings when he is just a regular human like his son Bruce Wayne, I get it. I get that he has to take this pill, and even in the issue of Convergence issue 3, he talks about how he's running out of this steroid and how it is not a good time. Because evidently this steroid or this Miraclo pill helps him not have all of his bones broken or, die, because he is an older Caped Crusader. Which is actually a great segue into our 4th story. I'm sure most of you are familiar with Frank Miller's 1986 groundbreaking 4-issue arc, Batman: The Dark Knight Returns. Well, that book got a sequel in the early 2000s called Batman: The Dark Knight Strikes Again. In 2015, Frank Miller and Brian Azzarello made a concluding sequel called DK3: The Master Race, which tells the story of now an 80, I would say 80, yeah, an 80-year-old Bruce Wayne. Because if you think about it, in The Dark Knight Returns, it was established that he was in his early 50s, having to come back once again to the mantle as Batman when citizens of Kandor come and terrorize Earth. And in issue 4, with the help of Carrie Kelly, yes, she's still around and she's still awesome. She is literally shooting him up with steroids in his leg where he is injured from a fight. And it's kind of the same thing as Thomas Wayne's Batman. He is taking these steroids because he needs to be able to go out and fight. But considering he's about 80 years old, he shouldn't be fighting. He shouldn't be going out and fighting in Gotham City. He should be going out and fighting an early bird special dinner. I get it. Bruce is very obsessive and he thinks the only person that can protect Gotham and Earth most of the time is just him, no matter how old he is. Evidently, in this series, you see that Bruce actually stops wearing the mantle of Batman and actually gives it to Carrie Kelly, who essentially becomes Batwoman within this Dark Knight universe. So at this point, we have talked about meth, we've talked about heroin, we've talked about weed, and we talked about 2 different types of steroids that Bruce Wayne has had within his body. Sure. So our 5th and final story on this list is literally my favorite. And not just on this list, but it's within my top 10 favorite Batman stories of all time. It is a gem. It is an outstanding 5-issue arc by Denny O'Neil, Trevor Von Eaton, and Jose Luis Garcia Lopez, and it is called Batman Venom, which was originally published in 1991's Legends of the Dark Knight issues 16 through 20. After Batman tries to save a little girl and fails and she ends up losing her life, he is riddled with so much guilt and feels like he is a failure and literally questions himself as the Dark Knight and if he's good enough to be Gotham City's hero. Which brings in the girl's father, who has created this very experimental drug called Venom and gives it to Batman to help him be a better hero, and it's an enhancement drug in a sense. Well, I'm sure you can see where this is going. Batman takes the Venom and he is hyped, he is lit, he is fighting criminals left and right, kind of beating them a little bit more than he should, but then literally gets hooked. Like when he runs out of his supply, he has to literally go and find the pills to take it. And when he finds them, he laughs maniacally and is just obsessed with taking these pills. He becomes addicted to these Venom pills. He realizes his addiction, calls Alfred, and literally asks for help. And Alfred locks him in the Batcave for over a month to wean him off of Venom and to rehabilitate him. Which does work. And of course, Batman gets off of Venom and he is rehabilitated and victorious in the end of the story. However, it does show that Bruce still feels guilty and still feels a sense of failure for the fact that he became addicted to Venom so hardcore in the first place. So there are two reasons why Batman Venom is an essential read for Batman's mythology. One, Denny O'Neil creating Venom is of course the same Venom that is used by the super steroid villain called Bane, who was created 2 years later in 1993 and is the man that systematically broke down Bruce Wayne and broke the bat in Batman Nightfall. Is that irony? I feel like it's something, because Bruce gets hooked on Venom and it totally tears his life apart, and then a few years later Bane is on Venom and then totally tears Bruce's life apart. If it's not irony, it's something. And two, O'Neill's story is one of the most humanizing Batman stories, period. It illustrates Bruce as a regular human succumbing to addiction, having to go through the road of redemption and rehabilitation to better himself, not just as a person, but a hero. But this crippling drug addiction did teach Bruce that drugs are just not the way to go to try to make yourself a better Batman. Even though he does use different types of steroids later in other stories. But it's fine, we'll just let that pass. So, is Batman a drug addict? Not in the slightest. But has he fallen prey to his own humanity and weaknesses? Definitely. Because of this, we respect the man under the cowl even more, because he rises above and comes out a better hero for this DC universe. Thanks so much for watching the 5 times that Batman was on drugs. Sometimes the titles are just really funny to me. I'm sorry. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a bat thumbs up. As usual, all of my social media is linked in the description below, including Instagram at History of the Batman. So why don't you give it a follow and become a Gothamite? Check out my comic book reviews for Comicosity, and if you haven't already, please enter the contest to win the MONDO exclusive BTAS 1/6 scale figure. This guy right back here, he is awesome. And like I said, all of the rules and who is eligible and all of that is in the description below. So check all of that information out before you enter to assure that you are eligible. All you have to do, like I said, is subscribe to this channel and comment on this video or any other of my videos on this channel. I am Batman with an exclamation point. And even if you don't want the figure, you should totally just subscribe to this channel and become a part of this Batman community. Thank you so much for watching, and we will have more History of the Batman soon right here on YouTube. Remember, Gothamites, it's all about peace, love, and Batman. Bye.